Okay, we are live and welcome back to the Self Achievement Network, everyone. My name is Dominic, and I am here today back with Anamika Datta, who is in Thailand somewhere in her many travels for the last couple of years. Hi, Anamika, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been like what? I'm gonna guess 2 years.
3 years, yeah, 2 to 3 years at least, I think.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about effective communication, but before we do that, let's let Anamika reintroduce herself. And so, who are you and what have you been up to?
Well, I've been traveling a lot, trying to do as much as I can, especially because of the COVID and 2 years that passed and didn't do much traveling. So I'm just making up for all the lost time. And currently, I am working as a personal brand consultant and doing my PhD in communications. And I also did my spoken word by Anamika podcast, but it's paused for a while. So I'm not working on that, but I'm looking to start it again
Mm-hmm.
in the future.
It's always a challenge to keep everything going.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I said it's always a challenge to keep everything going. The podcast,
Yeah,
the study.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with the
So you're doing
PhD because it's so time consuming.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing your PhD in communications.
That's right.
And just out of curiosity, why? I mean, there's a million and one things to study and all that, but communications, it seems like a really important thing.
Well, I did my master's in communications, and I just kind of wanted to do that dissertation that I did for my master's. I wanted to go along with that, and I wanted to work more into it. And I think in modern society, communication, we always say this, communication is key. I think a lot of problems would just solve if we learn to communicate with each other and effectively. That's so we can, I think the world would be a better place if we just more we can put more effort into communicating instead of just avoiding doing the hard talk, and we just pass and we just don't do all that. I think communication is so important. So yeah, I think that this is kind of my passion.
Mm-hmm. I'm old enough to know that communication is really important because I've made a lot of mistakes in my life by my communication skills. So anyway, so you're there in Thailand now. Tell us a little bit about where you're at. What have you been doing?
So I'm in the north of Thailand. It's called Chiang Mai. It's a very small, like a province in Thailand. Not a lot of people know about it. It's not one of those like really famous touristic places, but it's really beautiful, quiet, surrounded by mountains. There are several like elephant sanctuaries. There's a national park. There are a few really cool waterfalls, and there's so many temples. It's the city of temples. So there's so many Buddhist temples, the pagoda where they pray, and it's a very quiet, nice place to just kind of come. And a lot of people come here for yoga retreats. And then there's this Mai Tai, the Thai kickboxing thing. They have a lot of they're quite recognized here, so a lot of people come here to train for Mai Tai. It's a nice place, good to discover.
Yeah, I saw it. I was saying earlier that I saw your reel yesterday. Pardon me, with the elephant sanctuary, and wow, it's amazing. So
yeah, it was so cool. Yeah.
People can find you on where? Facebook and Instagram, or you have something?
Yeah,
else?
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Great. And for our podcasters, her name is spelled Anamika Dutta, Anamika Datta. So tell us about effective communication. Why is it so important?
So effective communication is when you want to get your point across. A lot of people are just mostly confused and they're kind of afraid to speak up, or they don't know if I'm going to come off as rude. They don't know if I'm going to come off as, I don't want to be that person who says the thing that I don't want to say and they bottle up a lot. So effective communication is learning the ways to deal with things with a purpose and with a straightforward manner, so that what you want to put across the table, you can just do it, but the other person also understands. So the point is clear. A lot of people just, nothing is lost in translation. So it's very important to do that, because once you're bottling things up and you're just confused and you're thinking that, okay, maybe I shouldn't speak up or I shouldn't say things, a lot of things get unsaid, and those things can, bottle up inside of you, and then later on you need to find a release to do that. So it's very important to practice effective communication, not just with your partner, but also in every type of relationship. Could be with your parents, could be with your coworkers, it could be with anyone. It's with a lot of empathy. You're listening to someone with the intention to understand, not with the intention to respond, and you're putting your point across in a very respectful manner, so that the other person understands what exactly is going on in your mind.
I did a AI generated definition of effective communication. Can I read a little bit of what it says?
Yeah, yes, sir.
So AI says that effective communication is the process of exchanging information, ideas, or messages between two or more people in a way that is clear, concise, and easily understood. I don't think that happens very often.
That doesn't happen, because when you're dealing with another human, there are a lot of layers to that human. There are a lot of egos, projection, insecurities. Just as I said, a lot gets lost in translation, behavior patterns. There are a lot of things that are blocking points for like effective communication. So once you decide to have that tough conversation with someone, you have to break down those walls. You have to keep that ego, discomfort, and those insecurities away, and sit down and with a lot of empathy. Effective communication is not possible without empathy. You have to have empathy and vulnerability when you're putting your point across. That's quite important. A lot of people forget that, and they think it's just about being rude and straightforward. This is my point of view. That is not exactly what it is. You're going to listen as much as you're going to talk.
Exactly. So what does listening have to do with communication? I mean, I know that we all say, oh, I'm a good listener, but I think that here's what I think, that we have this thing called a mind, and whatever comes in to our ears gets filtered through our brain, and then it comes out here out of our mouth. Sometimes the mind really can, if you have a clear mind, you have clear communication. You have a jumbled up mind, you get jumbled up communication. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think this can be solved with self-awareness. And what you're talking about, if there's like a chaotic presence in your mind with a lot of thoughts that are tangled up, I would say journaling is a good idea to do it. I'll give you an example when I'm talking about effective communication. Imagine if their partners, if someone comes from work and they had a bad day and they have like so many things in their head, and they sit down and they're thinking, should I talk about it? I don't want to bother my partner, but I also need like someone to just listen to what I went through at work. And when this person comes up and you're just so conscious about whether I should open up or not, a simple question that, hey, you know what? I had a bad day at work. I just need an ear. And when you say this, the other person knows that, okay, my job right now is just to listen, because this person has been through a lot, chaotic mind, and he's just gonna rant about what he has been through. And there's nothing wrong with ranting. I don't have to give a solution. I don't have to advise anything. All I have to do is just listen with empathy. And a lot of this can be solved if you just journal. If someone is having a lot of struggles with, they're not able to keep up with their thoughts, it's just always so tangled up. chaotic, confusing, I would say before bed, journaling, talk about your day to yourself, record yourself, and then listen to it later. All these things can help, having a clear mind, and practice this on a daily basis. I think that can help a lot.
Hmm. That's really interesting, and I think that it takes a bit of consciousness, awareness, self-awareness to make sure that our communication is effective. And when I was younger, I can guarantee you that I did not think about my communication in terms of who was in charge or responsible for making sure that what I wanted to communicate was getting to whoever I was talking to. I would just say things, and they would just come out of my mouth, and then that was it. And if they didn't understand what I was saying, then I would be like, well, that's your fault. You weren't listening.
Hmm.
How does all that play into like the whole responsibility thing about communication? How does that play into it?
It's also clearly expressing your needs. So if you're in pain, and if you directly go to your partner and you tell them that, you know what, I'm in pain and I need you to validate my pain. Or if you are angry and you want to express something, and you go to your partner and you tell them that, you know what, I feel angry, and this is the reason why I feel angry, and for some reasons I need to either you validate it, or you justify it, or you tell me how I'm supposed to approach it, because this is how I'm feeling right now. So if you put your emotions and you get that clearly to anyone, not just I'm just giving an example to your partner, it can be your parents, it can be anyone, just telling them with vulnerability that, this happened, and this is how it made me feel, and this is the response that I'm expecting from you, because I need that. You're my partner, or you're my mother, or you're my sister, or you're my friend. This is what I need at the moment.
Hmm.
I don't need solution. I need you to listen. I need you to validate what I'm feeling, and whatever it may be. So just clearly communicating what exactly you need, instead of just thinking and having the superpower the other person would just know what to do. Sometimes we don't know what exactly you need, and you have to tell us that this is exactly what they need, because if you come up to me with a problem, I may think that, okay, maybe you're looking for a solution. If you come up to me angry, I may feel attacked, like, did I do something wrong? Why are you taking this out on me? But this might be completely disconnected, like that has nothing to do with me. Maybe something else happened, and you just feel, all emotions are valid, all emotions are good, there are no bad emotions. It could be anger, sadness, anything. All emotions are okay and valid and good emotions. They're all right. But if I don't know what is making you feel that way, I may take it on myself, and then this communication is not clear, because the reason might be something else, but I may feel, okay, you're attacking me, then I build up those walls, and then I get defensive, and then I start pushing back. So instead of doing that, if you clearly communicate your need at the moment, I think it's better that you'll get a better response, you'll get a better way of understanding each other.
Hmm. Okay, so I have a question. So I hear this all the time when people are talking. I'm listening. I'm at wherever I'm at. I'm a party or a restaurant or something like that, and I hear people say, When you said that, it made me feel bad. When you said that, it made me angry." So my question is, so is it what people say that makes them angry, or makes the other person angry, or is it the way that we're interpreting the message that makes us angry?
Could be both ways. There are offensive. Sometimes people can be offensive. If they say something offensive to you, it's justified that you're angry. Or sometimes it can be that it was not meant that way. It was not intentional. So if you say this to a person and they kind of gaslight you and like, oh, this was nothing, I was just joking, and there's no empathy in that response, probably that was offensive, and your anger is justified. But if they say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it that way, how can I make it better? I'm so sorry that you felt that way, but that was not my intention. Let me put it in a better way. Let me rephrase that, or let me explain a bit further so that you don't get that idea. But if someone just says, oh, you're too sensitive, it's all in your head, this is not what I meant, I was just joking, that's not how you should take it, those things are quite offensive. I think these people have very minimal emotional intelligence. If they just invalidate someone's pain, someone's emotion, could be anger, sadness, whatever it is, and they just say, oh, it's all in your head and I didn't mean it that way and you shouldn't feel like that. When you say something to someone, you don't hold how it's going to affect them. You don't get to tell, oh, that shouldn't hurt you. That's not something that you control. What will hurt another person or make another person angry, that is not something that you control. What you can control is how you come across. And if you get to know that you came across wrong or somehow it was misunderstood, then you can always process the whole thing and come with empathy and be like, let me do this again. Let me rephrase that. Let me go further a bit more, explain this to you a bit more in detail, that is not what I meant. So you will know if someone is trying to be offensive or someone is just being genuine.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And one of the things that I've learned in the past was about, I talked earlier about responsibility, right? So who's responsible for making sure that my message gets across to someone, right? How can I guarantee that, right? So like, for example, questioning people. So if say I'm at work, right, and I'm giving some people or a person instructions about how to do a project, right? And then they go and they do the project and come back and say I'm done, but when I look at what they did, it has nothing, doesn't look like anything like I thought it would or should. You know what I mean? So how can I improve that process?
Yes. So if that happens, I again, you have to kind of approach it with empathy. If you gave someone a project and they didn't do a good job or it was not up to your satisfaction, you can tell the person, hey, you know what? This is not exactly what I was expecting. Maybe there was something lost in translation. Maybe I was not able to communicate to you properly before. Let us try this again. Now, this time, maybe a bit more detailed. Like, this is what and give them a reason that this is what you did, and this is exactly not how I wanted it to be. And you give them an example. This is how I want it to be. So don't just give them like, oh, I no, there is no reason, and they're wondering, oh, what did I do wrong? But give them like a very constructive criticism that, okay, this thing, these things need to be changed. These things are what I wanted exactly. Maybe I was not clear in the beginning or the last time, but now I am trying to give you more details so that you can work on it properly. And then put an effort to work on it together if you have the time. But if you're busy, of course, some people, if you're a manager and you're handling like 10 people, you won't have so much time to invest in just one person. You can also tell someone else who knows the work better that, you know what, this is where I went wrong. But don't ever make that person feel guilty for like they did something wrong, because that when you do that, you kind of lose that compassion and they kind of start seeing you as the enemy. If they're doing it intentionally again and again, okay, you give them a job and there's like, it's a behavioral pattern, that's a different thing. But if they're new and they don't really know, I think there's a very important to form compassion so that they can trust you. That is also building trust. That, okay, if I make a mistake, I get explained that this is where I made the mistake. It's not like I just don't like it, what you did. I can tell you and give you a constructive criticism on what I didn't like and what needs to be changed. And that also has to have so much empathy when you're dealing with this.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because, excuse me. So, I've worked in corporate before in my previous life, and I've been married 3 times. And so when you talk about compassion, I know that it's supposed to apply, at work, with my friends, with my parents, with my siblings, with my spouse, or with my partner, whoever, right? So why is it sometimes so difficult for people that are in a, a love relationship where compassion like gets thrown out the window so easily?
I didn't get that. What do you mean that if couples who are more compassionate, they are what they break up easily? I didn't get that.
Okay, so in the beginning of a relationship, there's this communication, right? And there's, everything is happy, happy, you know, we adore the person that we're with and we can't wait to see them again and all this stuff. And then however many days, weeks, months, years go by, it seems like that kind of goes away. It starts to diminish. And when it comes to communication, sometimes where the arguments start is that we're not so compassionate. Why do you think it happens in relationships, personal relationships versus professional relationships? Or am I just way off track here?
No, I understand. I think there's a clear indicator for professional relationships. There's less vulnerability. You're not as vulnerable with your coworkers compared to your partner. With your partner, you're more vulnerable, and they know more about you than your coworkers. So I think when it comes to your partner, when you've been together, I think that honeymoon phase it wears off. Because believe it or not, during those first 3-6 months, we intentionally, unintentionally, consciously, subconsciously wear a mask. We all want to put our best foot forward. We don't want them to know that there is like an unhealed inner child or something inside with a lot of childhood trauma. Everyone goes through it. Small, big, the trauma is something that no human can escape. There must be something that we don't discuss that in the beginning of the relationship. We are always happy because we are hiding a lot. And when that eventually comes out, it depends on your attachment style, it depends on your trauma. After a point of time, the couple, they kind of start triggering each other, and they start bringing all that trauma out. Unless until you discuss all this with your partner and you talk about it with empathy, compassion, vulnerability, these things are going to come around. And this is not something that you can do once and forget about it. This is a practice that you have to do every month, every 2 months, 3 months, whenever it's needed. I always there are 3 A's. There is acknowledgement, there is accountability, and there is assurance. And these 3 things build trust. And it's not like you do it once and then you forget about it and it should be there for the rest of your life. You don't get like a fund of unlimited trust just because you're married to someone or you're in a committed relationship with someone. Trust is something that you build over time with small actions every day. It's the same thing with peace. When you create peace, it's an effort. It's a team effort that you do small things every day, every week, or every to create that peace so that you guys can trust each other. After, as you said, years and a long time, a lot of walls are built. So couples who are not exercising this vulnerability task, we're not giving each other that acknowledgement, accountability, and assurance on a daily basis, on a regular basis, or like a monthly, weekly, whatever. Different couples need different, it's different for different couples. When they're not doing it, those walls are easily built. And those walls are made of ego, discomfort, and insecurities. So when those walls are built, it's very difficult to break down those walls. And there's also a point in a relationship where sometimes you feel that resistance that, okay, am I losing myself? Am I becoming a different person? Because this person is changing me, this person, I'm becoming this, that, doing this. When you feel that resistance, it becomes that the ego is stronger. So the vulnerability goes down. So when your ego goes up and your discomfort and your insecurities, it's here. When the moment you feel I'm not being myself, I want to do this, and you're not speaking with your partner, again, you're not communicating with your partner, and you're not giving them that accountability, assurance, acknowledgement, then there's no trust. Your partner is distant, you get distant. So it's easy for those walls to be built and that compassion is lost in the relationship.
it's this is, I'm getting this feeling that this whole communication, effective communication, is such a gigantic topic. I can understand that you would have to have a PhD to really understand what's going on.
It truly is.
It really is. And I was just thinking while you were talking about, adults, right? What about children? And my gosh, children are born and they are so vulnerable. They're learning to communicate
Mm,
from their caregivers, right? And that has like everything to do with the way that those caregivers communicate. So they're, taking pictures all the time, listening, and they understand. And it's so crazy. I've got siblings that communicate completely different than I do, and we had the same parents. So
mm,
it's really complicated.
right. I think with children, it's a lot on conditioning. How you condition them. Are you conditioning them with fear, or you're conditioning them with empathy? The children, they don't know the rules. They don't play by the rules, or they don't know all these things in adult worlds. And sometimes someone would say something or do something, and you condition them with fear, and just say, "No, don't do that. We don't do that." And you don't give them an explanation. Why not? Why am I not allowed to do that? Because they have an active mind. They would question. They don't understand, okay, we're just not supposed to do that. Don't be rude to a person, or don't play in the mud, or these things that we just condition them with fear. Don't do it, something bad will happen. But they don't know what bad is gonna happen to them. When you address them with empathy, that if you do this is the consequences, this would happen. Sometimes you have to kind of let them, like kind of play around, and then you get to know, okay, you do this and then you get sick, and you remember the last time when you did that, you got sick. So they have a prior experience to that this is, if I do this is what happens. If I say something mean to someone, it hurts them. And hurting someone means that makes them sad. Would you like to be sad if someone said something bad to you? Would you like that? Instead of conditioning them like, oh, you shouldn't do that, this is bad, this is this, give them an explanation why they shouldn't do what the certain things that you're telling them they shouldn't do. And give them empathy, give them that condition that, okay, you're allowed to do this, or you're not allowed to do this. This is the reason, and this is what we're conditioning you with. So never condition children with fear, because if you do that, then they have a very become very closed off. And we don't want that. We don't want to kill that creativity. We don't want to kill that very active mind that children have. So it's important to condition them with love, empathy, compassion instead of fear.
Hmm. You mentioned earlier emotional intelligence, and I just wanted to get your take on what is that to you? What does that mean? And how does that like self-awareness, emotional intelligence, are those things related? And what's all that about?
Absolutely, absolutely. Self-awareness and emotional intelligence would be just the intertwining this thing where I know that my actions have consequences. Just because I'm doing something, especially if you're in a romantic relationship, just because I'm doing something and I feel that this is justified to me, and I'm giving myself the explanation, I know that this is okay. But the moment I do it, I also have to consider my partner's reaction to it. When you're in a relationship, you're two people. You're not an individual. You cannot think for an individual. So you cannot go on and do whatever you want to do just because you think this is respectful to me. I can give myself an explanation. I can give myself a justification. So it's okay to do. But you always have to think, will my partner take it the same way? Will they understand this point of view that I have? So it's always this emotional intelligence that my actions will always have consequences. So they need to be justified not just to me, but to the other person as well. The same thing, it goes with your children, goes with your parents, goes with your coworkers, and everything. That whatever you do, your actions have consequences. That is the most important thing that you can learn when it comes to emotional intelligence. Also, to be able to control your emotions. Like it's a saying that there's a time and place for everything. So when you're feeling there's this sudden rush of emotion that there's okay, something bad has happened, it makes you sad or it makes you angry. How do you deal with that? So that regulating your emotions, that is also a part of self-awareness, that okay, I'm feeling this way. So you go back and you, in your deep conditioning, what triggered this? What experience from my past or my childhood, what kind of trauma did I experience that is triggering this response? If I'm feeling anxious, what is triggering this anxiety? How can I resolve it? So if I'm feeling angry all of a sudden, what is causing this anger? Is it the person? Is it something inside of me? Is it my insecurity? Is it my ego? What exactly is causing this? So being able to be, I would say, kind of like in sync with your emotions. You are so self-aware that you know every trauma that you have had in your life, and you know all your conditioning, and whenever you feel something, you know where to extract that from, where that feeling is coming from.
Listening to you is like, I feel like I'm like getting the encyclopedia, the dictionary, the AI definition of communications. Like, there's so much there to unpack. It's insane. Like, okay, so here's an example. So as I was listening, I hear you say words like but, okay, da 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 da, but, right? So I just want to share a little example because I hear people do this all the time. They're saying things like, well, I feel this way, but, and see, to me, when I hear that, the but part is like a negator. It negates what I just said. I feel this way, but why don't people say I feel this way and, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What's that? What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point actually. If you're trying to be, uh, there's more empathy in saying and instead of but. If you're trying to communicate with more empathy, I think that's also when you say and, it's like I'm validating your point of view, and to add, this is my point of view. But is more of it's not necessarily negating anything, but it's more of a conclusion that okay, this is the thing, but this is also to be considered. Like, this is the thing, also consider this. It's kind of like also consider this. But and is also something when you're trying to validate someone's feeling, like I understand your point of view, here's mine. It's better would be to just say I get it, I get what where you're coming from, what you're saying. Here's my point of view on that, here's my take on that. So you can avoid both and but, and just put both of the point of views clearly without using any of those words.
Hmm. And I think that it's similarly, like when I hear people talk, even myself, sometimes I slip. Like what I learned from my teachers was to talk about myself. When I talk about myself, I use the word I. What I hear a lot also is people saying or substituting the word you for I. So, I went to the grocery store and I bought apples, bananas, and some milk. Versus, when you go to the grocery store, you need to buy apples, bananas, and milk. I mean, that was a bad example, but when this is why I think listening is so important, because what we do unintentionally or unknowing is that we confuse the communication, and we wonder why we have all these problems by just the word choices that we have. So let, let me just finish with this. So we're at the 33-minute mark. Okay, we're going to do this for 30 minutes. Would you be willing to come back and focus in on this topic and this topic and this topic, and we could continue this
Yeah, sure, that sounds good.
in your travels when next time you're in some Switzerland or wherever you could you know
Yeah. We'll see my next destination.
yeah, do you have one picked out?
Not yet. I'll be going back to India for a while, and then we'll see.
Great. So, and that's where you're from, and I'm here sitting here in Chicago. She's in Thailand, northern Thailand, and she is from India. So this is like it's a big crazy world, huh?
It is. When you think about it, yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. You are amazing. Like you have knowledge that is just wonderful. And I think that communication is just so badly effective communication is so badly needed and wanted. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Okay, I'll sign off and then stay there, and I'll be right back, and we'll talk. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you